Over the last several years, talent show videos have become extremely popular on YouTube, with the likes of Quackity and the Sidemen creating content based on Simon Cowell's extremely successful Got Talent series. The format is global, but very recently, a group of Indian content creators decided to make their own version called India's Got Latent, which has gotten the creators into a tremendous amount of legal trouble, and the reason why, to many native Indians, is absolutely absurd. You might be thinking that it's some sort of a copyright issue, but in fact it's not. From what I've been able to uncover, the controversy stems from a poorly taken joke. One of the show's hosts, Ravnia Alabadia, known on YouTube as Beer Biceps, asked a hypothetical that you might have heard of before. The question was, would you rather watch your parents have sex every night for the rest of your life, or join in once and have it be done?
Hey, caramba!
Now, as someone who lives in the UK, I've heard of this question before. I would assume that most of the English-speaking Western audience might have come across this hypothetical at some point in their lives. But over in India, it is apparently heresy. The question was deemed as way over the line and disrespectful, and has led to the arrest of many people involved in the production of India's Got Latent, including Beer Biceps. But here's the thing. From my experience speaking to Indians that have moved to the UK for university, there seems to be a huge divide in the country right now between the older, more traditional generations and the more progressive younger generations. And social media's reaction to the arrest really does show this. Plenty of videos about this incident have been made by Indian content creators breaking down what happened, and people in the comments section seem enraged by the fact that anyone is being arrested simply for making a joke, while at the same time there are severe crimes happening in the country that go unpunished every single day. Angry citizens are saying that real problems are being considered as jokes, and jokes are being considered as real problems. People are questioning why the authorities even care. Why is taxpayer money being spent on locking up YouTubers for cracking a joke? Especially one of this nature, which is just a stupid hypothetical. Ravnia put up this Instagram post saying that his joke was insensitive and disrespectful, that he had received death threats, and that people were even invading his family's place of work, finishing the post by saying that he was going to throw himself to the mercy of the Indian courts. It's been reported that he's lost thousands of subscribers, including high-profile names such as Virat Kohli, the extremely popular Indian cricketer. And currently, there's a realistic possibility that he might see some sort of legal repercussions for this. Well, let me say that I'm firmly in Beer Biceps' corner for this one. I think that anyone who's getting arrested for a joke, in itself, is a joke, and therefore the police need to arrest themselves. Apparently, many of the people on India's Got Latent that were charged missed their court date, and so I can't imagine that this is going to help their case. The series, India's Got Latent, has now been cancelled, and the episodes have been taken down from YouTube. This is a massive story in India right now, but I'm quite confident that it's not nearly as known about in the West. And delivering these sorts of stories to you guys is the goal of my new series, Controversies. This is the second episode of the series, and while the one on Japan didn't exactly do quite as well as I would have hoped, I decided I'd go ahead and make this second episode anyway. That said, if you want to see this series continue, then you still need to make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you want to, let me know down in the comments which country you'd like to see me cover next. In case you didn't see the Japanese video, which you should watch after this one by the way, this series isn't intending to discriminate against the country that's being featured. Instead, what I want to do is bring these international and foreign stories to a new audience. Still to come, we have a story about a man who got arrested for making a curry, and an anti-feminist YouTuber that got physically threatened into issuing an apology to women by a gang of angry feminists. India is a country that many people on the internet seem very happy to mock or scoff at, so is it as bad as people say? Well, today we'll have to find out. So let's jump right back into it with a story that many people might call toxic. The next controversy we're going to speak about is from one of India's largest, yet most controversial content creators. He goes by the name Elvish Yadav. Now, to an English-speaking Western audience, I'd assume that the vast majority of you have never heard that name. But in India, he's huge. He has a combined total of almost 25 million subscribers between his main channel and vlog channel, and has even appeared in several TV shows due to his popularity. However, he kind of reminds me of a KSI or Logan Paul type figure because despite his massive amounts of success, his Wikipedia page will show you that he's been embroiled in several major controversies during his rise to the top. For example, he's made sexist remarks to a female comedian, he's previously referred to people that scavenge discarded items as rag pickers, which sounds like a slur, but apparently it's just a way to refer to people that pick up rags and other waste material from the streets for a livelihood. But I'd assume that people were offended because he's extremely rich, and it seems like he's turning his nose up at the less fortunate. He was also caught up in some sort of a flower pot theft case, because why not? He's been exposed for not living the life that he portrays on social media, and he's made some unsavory comments about an Indian model named Chum Darang. However, for all of these controversies, the one that I'm most fascinated by is the one that set back in late 2023. Elvish was at a party that was raided by law enforcement because they thought that a dangerous party drug was being consumed there. The drug in question, I kid you not, was snake venom. Yadav was accused of supplying snake venom at the raves that he was attending. During the raid, it said that 9 venomous snakes, including cobras, were seized, along with 20 milliliters of snake venom. And after some time, Yadav eventually admitted to his part in it. Fortunately for Yadav, it appears as though he didn't face harsh repercussions for his supplying of the snake venom, and he was reportedly granted bail by the Gautam Buddha Nagar District Court. But for one of the largest and most controversial content creators in India though, he was a shoo-in for this video. On a somewhat similar note, our next tale also concerns something that should not have been consumed. In the Japanese pilot of this series, we had both a story about someone who was eating something that they shouldn't, which was their pet pig by the way, and also a story about a Japanese music artist that made a song about how all Indian people love curry. What about if we fuse those together? What about a story of someone that was eating something that they shouldn't, that was found in a curry? The man we'll be speaking about is Kodam Pranay Kumar, who, according to a Daily Mail article, had 277,000 subscribers as of the time this video was made. However, back in August 2024, he made headline news after a video of his actually got him arrested. I hope you've pieced it together by now that the reason for his arrest was something to do with a curry. But the question is, what? Well, for whatever reason, Kodam Pranay Kumar decided to make a peacock curry.
Hey India, what's new with you? I arrested a guy because of a video he made on YouTube. Oh no, what horrible thing did he do? He made a video where he cooked a peacock curry. Wait, for real?
Obviously, peacocks are large birds, known for the male of the species to have extremely colourful feathers. What you might not know, however, is that the peacock is apparently a national symbol of India. In fact, it's actually the national bird. And while once upon a time the bird had a booming population, especially in the northern parts of the country, these days that number is much smaller, albeit according to sources I've found, the population is once again on the rise. All that said, it's apparently illegal to kill a peacock under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, so when Kodam Pranay Kumar decided to cook one up for dinner, this led to some severe backlash. Animal rights activists rallied against him. The story was published on such news outlets as the Times of India, the Mirror, and as I mentioned before, the Daily Mail. And the video was eventually taken down from YouTube. Now, the reason for this, I'm still not crystal clear on. It could have been that he took it down in the backlash, or because this was illegal in his country, perhaps he was legally forced to remove it. People discussing this story seem to think that this is essentially the Indian version of a British person cooking and eating a swan, or an American eating a bald eagle. Now, Kodam eventually claimed that the video was a fake, and that he actually cooked using chicken, but used peacock in the title as a way to draw in more views. And the police decided to take in the leftover curry for testing, even going as far as testing Kodam's blood. News articles don't seem to have followed up on what happened to Kodam, nor could I find any links to his YouTube channel, so the fate of Mr. Kumar is as of right now a mystery. Now, at this point in the video, I want to address something that was asked ferociously in the last one, which was how do I get my country to be featured in this series? And the answer to that is simple, I just need to see the demand for it down in the comments. So especially if you live in some sort of an obscure country, send this video to your friends and make sure that you guys all ask, and if I see enough requests for a certain country, I'll see what I can do. That said, we'll continue on with this strange treatment of animal theme for our next story, which could have ended in absolute disaster. This one will teach you that numbskullery, just for the sake of social media clout, is not just a Western thing. Now, when you think of an obnoxious YouTuber making a video that endangers an animal's life, I'd wager that you might be thinking of a Jake Paul type character up in the Hollywood Hills. But as you'll soon see, this sort of behaviour isn't exclusive to blonde American sociopaths, and GauravZone is a prime example of this. He's a content creator with nearly 5 million subscribers that created several ultra-viral videos back in the late 2010s and early 2020s. Several of his videos have view counts in the multi-millions. But in May 2021, many people thought that he went much too far after pulling a stunt that endangered the life of his dog. So what did he do? Well, he decided to make his dog fly in the air by attaching several helium balloons to it. I'm honestly not too sure how much of this video I can show, simply because YouTube might hit my channel if I play the clip of the dog actually floating, but I can confirm that at one point in the video, it is airborne. In fact, at one point, Gaurav actually lets go of the dog named Dollar with nothing attaching it to the ground, and so it floats up to the second floor of an apartment building before someone who is up there catches it. There are moments when the dog is in the air with just the balloons, nothing tying it to the floor, and so if there was some sort of a gust of wind that blew the dog away, if the person, for whatever reason, was unable to get a hold of that dog, it would have kept rising and kept rising and kept rising, and eventually the dog would have died in an extremely scary and painful way. For very obvious reasons, this video, once it came out, was despised. People very quickly pointed out that his treatment of animals showed that he has a complete lack of remorse and empathy, and so, of course, it was soon deleted. In his defense, Gaurav would say that he loved his dog and that he was inspired to make the video by other foreign videos. So I did a little bit of research. There are videos on the internet that seem to have been shot in what I assume to be America or maybe Canada that have dogs attached to balloons floating in the air. But they're all shot indoors, where there's no possibility that the dog will just keep rising into the sky. GauravZone was then arrested by the police for animal cruelty. On the 23rd of May 2021, he would release an apology, which is now sitting at 2 million views. This is what he had to say.
वीडियो की लेंथ बढ़ाता है जो कि मेरे से गलती हो गई और वो लोग देख नहीं पाए.
Unfortunately, I don't speak his language, so I can't translate. But Indians, assemble in the comments and let me know what he said. Anyway, people in the comment section were calling him out on it, saying that if he was truly an animal lover, he wouldn't do what he did, and that it was a good thing that he got arrested. In his next video, titled Ha 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 GauravZone, the content would show that he thought that the haters' criticisms were unwarranted, and he would portray himself as the victim, while also bragging that he had made a ton of money from YouTube. This also got him a ton of hate and condemnation, but Gaurav would continue making videos from there on out, and the controversy was largely forgotten about afterwards. That said, flash forward to today, and his videos don't get nearly as much traction as they once did. They get tens of thousands of views compared to the hundreds of thousands or even millions that he got a few years back. All in all, GauravZone didn't really seem to face many consequences for his actions, but the man featured in our next story definitely did. How he did though was considered quite controversial, so let's give it a look. The Vice article that I used to get the bulk of the information for this story read that there was a YouTuber known as VJP Nair who made some unsavory comments about women and feminism on his YouTube channel. It's alleged that back in August 2020, he made the claim that feminists don't wear underwear because they like having a lot of sex. Apparently, this sort of women-hating content is quickly growing a foothold in India, just like many people would argue that it has been in the West over the past several years. And so to combat this, a group of Indian feminists decided to pay VJP Nair a visit. Within a Facebook livestream, a group of 3 women named Dia Sana and 2 other names that I'm not even going to try to pronounce, well, they're seen confronting VJ and pouring charcoal oil over him before physically threatening him. A lot of this can't be shown because it would likely break YouTube's terms of service, but long story short, they physically lay their hands on him several times. Especially the old woman, she's seen slapping him about a bunch. And in the end, they forced him to apologise for the things he said. The women afterwards said that they did this because they weren't getting any help from the authorities, so they took measures into their own hands. However, all of this vigilante justice will naturally receive some criticism. Naturally, all 3 women involved had charges issued against them, but their measures did seem to work. Not only were they able to get an apology out of VJ, making him look very weak in the process, but in the fallout of this ambush, his YouTube channel was taken down and he was arrested by Kerala police. Based on the comments of a news report on the incident, it seems as though most people that watched it were in strong support of the feminists. It's no secret that India has a very bad reputation when it comes to sexism and men treating women extremely poorly, but while this did happen several years ago, and it doesn't seem as though too much has changed in the time since, this incident does show that there's an appetite for change within many people. Is threatening behaviour in response to bigotry ever warranted? I'm not going to speak for you, but let me know what you think down in the comments. In the meantime though, I'm going to move on to a creator who hands down was accused of the most severe crimes of anyone that I've mentioned so far. When I was writing this video, I wanted to make sure that not every story that I brought up was reinforcing some sort of negative stereotype. That's not the goal of the series, but at least compared to the Japanese video that I made last week, the headlines were much more negative, and it would be unfair to pretend that this kind of stuff didn't exist. So an example of this is an absolute unit of a man named Bobby Kataria. A few years ago, his largest controversy was an obnoxious video where he smoked on a plane. But more recently, his name was in the media after he was accused of human trafficking among many other crimes. According to India Today, it reads that investigations have revealed that both the accused, along with others, were involved in recruiting and transporting innocent job seekers using deception and false inducements. The victims were lured and were being handed over to Chinese companies in Laos, where they were forced to carry out cyber frauds and scams under harsh, strenuous and restrictive conditions. The Chinese companies confiscated the passports of the victims, and they were also subjected to physical and mental torture in the event of non-performance or refusal to carry out cyber frauds. It's said that Bobby Kataria may have leveraged his position as an online content creator in order to coerce young people into falling for this trap. It was reported that he had a social media following of over 4 lakh, which is 400,000 on Instagram, as well as 320,000 on Facebook, and over 200,000 on other pages, so if my source is correct, he was quite a big deal on the internet. According to another source I found, he was charged with causing hurt, wrongful confinement, criminal intimidation, cheating, which is more about lying to someone for profit than it is marital cheating by the way, as well as abduction, buying and disposing of any person as a slave, and criminal conspiracy. This was a massive sting and led to the arrest of several people, not just Kataria. But to give you a scale of Kataria's involvement, according to some sources, he's said to have sent 33 people abroad on the pretext of a job promise. Due to the news of this only breaking in the spring of 2024, as of the time this video comes out, no court decision has been made yet. His social media accounts have naturally been taken down in the meantime, and based upon the authorities being so adamant that he had a role to play in the scheme, I think it's tough to see how Kataria is going to get out of this one without spending a lengthy amount of time behind bars. So that's all we have time for today. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed and you want to see the series continue, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know down in the comments which country you'd like to see me cover next. Or if I missed out any stories, then let me know down in the comments as well, and if there's enough demand for it, then maybe at some point I'll make a part 2. If you enjoyed this and you want to see some more, then don't forget to check out the previous episode on Japanese YouTube controversies next. That was the pilot episode of this series, and even contained a cameo from my good friend Trip, so click on the screen now to give it a watch. Aside from that, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.